Welcome to the Wedding Planning 101, where I'm going to show you how to plan your wedding like a pro. If you just got engaged and you're thinking, okay, now what? Or if you're already knee-deep in wedding planning and feeling completely overwhelmed, this podcast is for you. If you're ready for insider tips, actionable advice, and real talk from someone who's been behind the scenes of over 500 weddings, then let's get planning. Hey there, and welcome to the final episode of this podcast series. I'm Amanda Jerome, and wow, you've been with me from episode 1 all the way through episode 8. You've done some incredible work. I mean it. You should feel really proud of yourselves right now. Most couples dive into planning without doing any of the foundational work you've just completed. And that's often why they end up stressed, overwhelmed, over budget, and disconnected from each other by the time their wedding day arrives. But you've done the work. You've set yourselves up for success. So today, in this final episode, I want to talk about how you take everything you've learned and turn it into a complete professional level planning system. Because here's what I've learned after 20 years of planning weddings. While this podcast has given you an incredible foundation, there are so many more details that need to be tracked, organized, and communicated to make sure your wedding day goes so smoothly. And that's exactly why I created the Wedding Planning 101. So settle in and let's talk about how you can plan your wedding like a pro without the pro price tag. Firstly, I want to take you back through what we've covered in this podcast series because I think it's really important to see just how far you've come. In episode 1, we started at the very beginning. Instead of jumping straight to picking venues or booking vendors like most couples do, we did the 25-year anniversary exercise. You identified your top 3 priorities, what you want people to remember about your wedding 25 years from now. You built your priority tree, separating what's non-negotiable from what's nice to have, and you discovered why this matters. Because your priorities drive every single decision you make through the planning process. Then in episode 2, we got real about money. You calculated your actual budget, what you have saved, what you can save each month, and whether you're accepting money from parents and what that means. We talked about the budget pie, how your venue and catering typically takes up 60% of your budget if they're combined, or 20% for venue alone if you're hiring separate catering. And we made sure your budget allocation actually reflects your priorities from episode 1, because it's one thing to say photography is important. It's another thing to actually allocate enough money to make that happen. Episode 3 was all about the emotional and relational work of wedding planning. We talked about how the engagement process is a rite of passage, not just party planning. We discussed the reality that you'll likely have some conflict during this process and explored how to show up for each other when that happens. We covered setting energetic boundaries with family and friends who will have opinions, and we revisited the money and family dynamics conversation from a relationship perspective, because accepting money often comes with expectations attached. In episode 4, we shifted to planning your actual wedding day timeline. We talked about the first look debate and why I'm such an advocate for seeing each other before the ceremony. We discussed the reality of walking down the aisle, all the distractions, all the people trying to get your attention, and why that private first moment matters so much. And we emphasize the importance of building in connection moments throughout the day. The post-ceremony retreat, the pre-dinner reset, golden hour photos, checking in with each other regularly. Because if you're not intentional about staying connected, the day flies by and you barely remember experiencing it together. Episode 5 was all about asking for help and delegating. We acknowledged how hard it can be to ask for help, especially if you're type A and want to do everything yourself. But we explored why you can't and shouldn't do it alone. We identified specific tasks you can delegate to your wedding party and family members. We created scripts for how to actually ask for help without feeling guilty. And we planned out those critical day of roles. Who's managing breakfast? Who's holding the emergency kit? Who's wrangling people for photos? Then in episode 6, we dove into the creative side, developing your theme and mood board. You learned how to use Pinterest as a starting point without getting overwhelmed by all the pretty pictures. We talked about finding that golden thread, that through line that connects your favorite images and creates a cohesive aesthetic. We did the reality check about what aspirational is versus what's actually achievable within your budget. And we emphasized the importance of authenticity, making sure your wedding reflects who you actually are, not just what looks good on Pinterest. Episode 7 took that personalization even deeper. We explored what makes you unique as a couple, your hobbies, your quirks, your relationship signatures. We went through traditional wedding elements and gave you permission to skip anything that doesn't resonate with you. We brainstormed ways to make traditions your own, like turning the glass clinking for a kiss into relationship trivia or song performances. And we emphasized the difference between personal touches that are authentic versus ones that are just performative. Ooh, that's a lot, right? You've covered so much ground. You have your priorities, your budget, your relationship agreements, your timeline, your delegation plan, your visual identity, and your personalization strategy. But here's what I've observed after 20 years of planning weddings. While this is an incredible foundation, and most couples don't even have this much figured out, there are still so many logistical details that need to be managed to execute a wedding. And that's the gap the Wedding Planning 101 fills. Here's what I've learned after planning hundreds of weddings. Organization isn't just about being type A or liking spreadsheets. Organization is what allows you to relax and enjoy this planning process. There are literally hundreds of details involved in planning a wedding that we simply couldn't cover in 8 podcast episodes. How many centerpieces do you need? And where are you sourcing them from? What's your ceremony processional order? Who's walking with whom? What's your cocktail hour timeline? How many bottles of wine do you need for 100 guests? What size dance floor works for your guest count? When do payments go out to each vendor and how much? What's your backup plan if it rains? Who's responsible for setting up your ceremony space and what time are they arriving? These aren't just small details. These are the things that, if not figured out ahead of time and communicated clearly to everyone involved, can create massive amounts of stress on your wedding day and leading up to it. The difference between a smooth wedding day and a chaotic one isn't luck. It's preparation. It's organization. It's having every single detail documented, assigned to a responsible person, and communicated to everyone who needs to know. That's the gap that Wedding Planning 101 fills. So let me walk you through what I've created with the Wedding Planning 101. It's a full-scale wedding planning guidebook with a Google Sheets spreadsheet that has multiple tabs. And when I say multiple tabs, I mean this thing is comprehensive. Each tab is designed to track a specific aspect of your wedding with thorough checklists that help ensure nothing gets missed. This isn't a cute printable you find on Etsy. This is a professional planning system. The same kind of system that wedding planners use when they're charging 10 to 20% of your budget. Here's something to consider. If you have a $50,000 wedding budget, a wedding planner typically costs $5,000 to $10,000. And don't get me wrong, if you have that in your budget, hiring a planner is an incredible investment. I'm obviously biased because it's what I do for a living, but here's what I've observed. A lot of couples who are budget conscious and want to DIY their wedding simply can't allocate that much to a planner. They want to do it themselves, but they don't know what they don't know. They don't have the systems and checklists and experience to make sure everything gets handled. That's exactly why I created the Wedding Planning 101. It gives you the ability to plan your wedding like a pro without the pro price tag. You get all my systems, all my knowledge, all my checklists for a fraction of what you'd pay a planner. All right, let me walk you through exactly what's included because this seriously covers everything. First, you get a comprehensive PDF guidebook. This is your instruction manual for the entire system. It walks you through how to use every single tab in the Google Sheets spreadsheet with pro tips for each section based on what I've learned over 20 years of planning weddings like this. It's not just, here's a spreadsheet, good luck. It's, here's exactly how to use this like a professional planner would. And here are the insider tips that will save you money, save you time, and save you the stress. The guidebook ensures you're not just filling out forms, you're using them strategically. Secondly, you'll get the fully customizable Google Sheet spreadsheet. This is the heart of the system. It's where all of your planning lives. And because it's a Google Sheet, you can access it from anywhere. Share it with your partner, share it with your wedding party, share it with your vendors. Everyone's working from the same information, which eliminates so much miscommunication and stress. Budget worksheets. And we talked about building your budget in episode 2, but the Wedding Planning 101 takes it even deeper. You get worksheets that break down every single expense category, track your payments, monitor what you've spent versus what you've budgeted, and keep you on track financially through the entire planning process. You get decor checklists for both indoor and outdoor venues. These are so detailed. What do you need for your ceremony space? What about the cocktail hour, reception? What if it rains and you need to move everything inside? These checklists help ensure that you've thought of everything, literally everything. So you're not scrambling at the last minute, realizing you forgot something critical, like water or ice. Monthly to-do checklists. This is one of my favorite features. It breaks down exactly what you could be doing at 12 months out, 9 months out, 6 months out, 3 months out, 1 month out, and in the final weeks leading up to your wedding. So you're never wondering, what should I be working on right now? You just open the checklist and you know exactly what needs to happen. Vendor meeting notes and quote management. When you're meeting with photographers, florists, caterers, DJs, you need a system for tracking all those conversations and quotes. Otherwise, 3 months later, you can't remember who quoted you what and what was included in each package. This section keeps all of that organized in one place. Payment management. This is huge. You need to know when your deposits are due, when final payments are due, and how much you owe each vendor. And when you've paid them, this tracker helps ensure you never miss a payment deadline and helps you manage your cash flow throughout the planning process. Seating chart and templates. If you've never done a seating chart for 100 plus people, let me tell you, it's a puzzle. Who sits with whom? Who can't sit near each other? How do you balance tables? The seating chart tool in the Wedding Planning 101 makes this so much easier. You get bar calculators and shopping lists. How much alcohol do you need for your guest count? How many bottles of wine, beer, liquor? What about non-alc options? The bar calculator does the math for you based on your guest count and the length of your reception. and then gives you a shopping list so you know exactly what to buy. You get your timelines and your schedules. This builds on what we talked about in episode 4, but goes so much deeper. You get templates for your ceremony timeline, reception timeline, vendor load in and load out schedules, your getting ready timeline, everything you need to make sure the day runs smoothly. We also have Canva signage templates. Remember in episode 6 when we talked about signage? These templates make it so easy. You can customize them with your own colors, your fonts, your wording, and either print them yourself or send them to a print shop. Welcome signs, seating charts, bar menus, table numbers, it's all there. Printable or PDF versions to share. Once you've filled everything out, you can export it as a PDF and send it to your vendors. Your photographer gets a copy, your venue coordinator gets a copy, your DJ gets a copy. Everyone's working from the same master document, which means everyone knows exactly what's supposed to happen and when. This is what I mean when I say comprehensive. The Wedding Planning 101 is literally everything you need to plan your wedding from start to finish, organized in a way that makes sense and ensures nothing falls through the cracks. Here's something I've learned after 20 years of planning weddings. When you have a system, when you know exactly what needs to happen, when it needs to happen, who's responsible for it, and how much it costs, you can relax. You can trust that it's handled. You're not lying awake at night thinking, did I remember to order the guest book? When is the floral payment due? Who's setting up the ceremony chairs? But it's not just about your peace of mind. Your vendors need to have this information organized too. The people you're hiring, your photographer, your caterer, your DJ, your venue coordinator, they work best when they have production documents. They need timelines. They need to know exactly what you want and when it's supposed to happen. When you show up with a professional timeline and schedule, your vendors can do their jobs so much better. Your photographer knows exactly when family photos are happening and who needs to be there. Your DJ knows exactly when to play the first dance song and when to make announcements. Your caterer knows exactly when to start serving dinner and when to bring out the cake. It creates clarity instead of confusion. It leaves very little room for error or miscommunication. And here's what I've seen happen when couples don't have this. Your vendors are constantly coming to you on your wedding day, asking questions. What time are we doing this? Who's in the family photos? When do you want to cut the cake? Instead of just being present and enjoying your day, you're basically coordinating your own wedding. That's not what you want. You shouldn't be executing anything on your wedding day. It should all be taken care of ahead of time, and everyone involved should know their responsibilities. So you can enjoy this day that you've been working towards with your person. That's what Wedding Planning 101 allows you to do. You do all of the work on the front end, filling out the spreadsheets, creating your timelines, organizing all the details. Then you share the link with your vendors, and it becomes this cohesive communication piece. And then you can disconnect. You can let it go. You can trust that everything is taken care of because you've handled it like a pro. And you leave it to your vendors to execute the plan on your wedding day. Let me paint you a picture of what I've seen happen when couples don't have a system like this. It's your wedding day. You're getting ready, trying to be present, trying to enjoy this moment. And your phone keeps buzzing. Your florist is asking where to put the centerpieces. Your DJ is asking, when do you want to do your first dance? Your mom is asking what time photos are happening. Your venue coordinator needs to know when dinner should be served. Suddenly, you're not enjoying getting ready. You're managing logistics. You're stressed. You're annoyed. This is supposed to be one of the best days of your lives, and instead, you're playing project manager. Or here's another scenario I've witnessed. Something gets missed. Nobody remembered to assign someone to bring the marriage license to the ceremony, or the unity candle doesn't get set up because no one knew where it was supposed to go, or family photos take twice as long as they should because Nobody made a list, and your photographer is trying to figure out who needs to be in which shot. These aren't hypothetical scenarios. I've seen all of these happen, and they're completely avoidable with proper planning and organization. The Wedding Planning 101 helps you avoid this scenario. It helps you make sure that every detail is thought through, documented, assigned to someone, and communicated to everyone that needs to know. It's your insurance policy against wedding day chaos. Here's how I think about the Wedding Planning 101. It's your roadmap. Right now, after listening to these 8 podcast episodes and filling out the workbook sections, you have a really solid foundation. You know where you're trying to go, you know your priorities, your budget, and your vision. But getting from where you are now to your actual wedding day, that's a journey with a lot of turns and details and decisions along the way. Wedding Planning 101 is the GPS that guides you through that journey. It shows you exactly what to do, when to do it, keeps you on track, and helps ensure you don't miss anything important. It's your communication tool. When you need to explain your vision to your florist or your timeline to your photographer, you're not just verbally describing it and hoping they understood. You're handing them a professional document that clearly lays out exactly what you want. And it's your stress reducer. When you have everything organized and documented, you can trust the process. You're not second guessing yourself or wondering if you forgot something. You know you've thought of everything because Wedding Planning 101 helped you think of everything. This workbook contains everything you've already thought of through this podcast series, plus about 1,000 things you haven't thought of yet. Because after 20 years of planning weddings, I've seen what gets missed. I've seen what causes problems. I've seen what couples wish they had known earlier. I've also walked through all of that myself. And I put all of that knowledge into Wedding Planning 101. So you don't have to learn these lessons the hard way. So here's what I would love for you to take away from this. If you want to DIY your wedding, but you want to do it right, if you want to plan your wedding the way a professional planner would plan it, Wedding Planning 101 is how you do that. It's not about having more money or more time, being more organized than other couples. It's about having the right systems in place. It is about having checklists that help ensure nothing gets forgotten. It's about having templates that make complex tasks simpler. It's about having 20 years of wedding planning expertise guiding you through every step of the process. You've already invested hours into listening to this podcast and filling out the workbook sections. You've done the hard foundational work that most couples skip. This is your opportunity to take everything you've learned and put it into a complete planning system that will carry you all the way through to your wedding day and make sure it goes smoothly. Because at the end of the day, this is more than just having a beautiful wedding. It's about enjoying the process of planning it. It's that rite of passage. It's about staying connected to your partner throughout this journey. It's about showing up on your wedding day, feeling confident and prepared, not stressed and scattered. It's about being present for the day you've been dreaming about and working towards. That's what Wedding Planning 101 gives you. The confidence to know you've planned this like a pro, the peace of mind to know nothing important has been forgotten, the freedom to disconnect from the details and enjoy the day. All right, we've reached the end of this podcast series, and I just want to say thank you. Thank you for trusting me to guide you through this process. Thank you for doing the work in each episode's workbook section. Thank you for being open to thinking about wedding planning differently than most couples do. If you take nothing else away from these 8 episodes, I hope it's this. Your wedding can reflect who you are. It can be built on a foundation of clear priorities and honest budgeting. It can strengthen your relationship, not strain it. And it can be planned in a way that allows you to enjoy it. That's what this podcast series has been about, and that's what the Wedding Planning 101 is designed to help you achieve. You can find the link to Wedding Planning 101 in the show notes. I've made it accessible as possible because I genuinely want you to have the tool you need to plan an incredible wedding without the stress and overwhelm that so many couples experience. If you choose to get it, I think you'll find it's exactly what you need to turn everything you've learned into a complete organized system. Fill it out, use it to communicate with your vendors, trust the system, and then show up on your wedding day knowing you've planned this thing like an absolute pro. I'm Amanda Jerome, and I'm so honored to have been a part of your wedding planning journey. Now go plan a wedding that's uniquely yours, stays within your budget, strengthens your relationship, and creates memories you will cherish for the rest of your lives. Congratulations on your engagement. I'm rooting for you. Happy planning. Thanks for tuning in to this episode of Wedding Planning 101. If you're ready to take the stress out of wedding planning and get organized like a pro, head to weddingplanning101.com to get your Wedding Planning 101 workbook. Inside, you'll find everything we talked about in this episode, plus templates, checklists, budget trackers, and all the tools you need to plan your wedding day with confidence so you can actually enjoy the day when it gets here. Your dream day is waiting, and it starts with planning it like a pro.